Welcome to our mini professional development from the Environmental Education Association of Indiana. I am Sarah Wolf. I'm the president of EEAI for this year and next year. And I have some little doggy friends who are being silly right here. I'm really glad to have you. I wanted to share about these guidelines for excellence in environmental education. So if you haven't already, if you can put your name in the chat and then your organization or your school, if you're an EEAI member, and what is your interest in today's webinar so we can get to know everybody. Glad to have members joining and some non-members joining. Right. I'm going to give you some information about these guidelines and some additional training that's going to be offered this summer. So stay tuned for more information coming from EEAI on the guidelines for excellence. All right. Well, let's keep moving along here. So these guidelines for excellence in environmental education were developed by the National Association, the North American Association for Environmental Education. And that is kind of like our almost parent group of EEAI. And it is it's actually more than just North America. There are some international some countries from across the globe who are part of NAAEE, even though it's called the North American Association. And so that's what we're going to cover today, what these guidelines for excellence are. I was able to get introduced to these more in depth than I had before this summer. I'm going through the environmental education certification program through Ohio because here in Indiana we don't have one of those yet. Yet is a big part of it, and I was able to get introduced to these a little bit more in depth, and I thought it would be good to share with you all, and so you know about other resources that are available to you, and they are free, which is always a good thing. We always can enjoy some free things. So, if you can put in the chat, are you familiar with these guidelines for excellence? Have you heard of them before you heard about this webinar? Are you maybe you have heard the term, but you don't know what they are? That will help kind of guide my kind of presentation today. So, if you can share that in the chat, that would be fantastic. Interested in being excellent, aren't we all? That's a good response. Yep, I've heard of them. I've looked online. Okay, yeah, good, good. Anybody else? Just kind of just a little bit of awareness, new. Yep. Glanced over them. Haven't heard of them. Okay, that's good. Good. Glad to help give some awareness to this. All right, so kind of a smattering across the board here. Pre-conference workshop. Yep. All right. So I'm glad some new folks are learning about these things. So let's see here. Let's keep going. So wanted to give just a brief history and perspective of environmental literacy, but also what these things are, and give just a little bit of information about how these were developed and such. So I'm going to share a little bit about that. So back in 1977, there was this group, this meeting in Tbilisi, Georgia, the former Soviet Union. So not Georgia, the United States. But there was this first intergovernmental conference on environmental education, 1977. And there were 66 member states who attended this. There were 330 delegates, And they kind of took this chance in this meeting to figure out how to define environmental education and what should be the goals of environmental education. And so out of this meeting came the Tbilisi Declaration. And this is kind of like the building blocks of environmental education as we know it now. And if you're interested in learning more, NAAEE has a free online EE Learn module. It's very short, and you can learn more about the Tbilisi Declaration and other EE history by going through that very short module. You do have to make an account, a free account on the NAAEE website. That will also give you access to lots of other great resources also. So in this Tbilisi Declaration, they spelled out some really important things for environmental education. And so some of the key things are here on the slide. So developing a world population that is aware of and concerned about the environment, but also gives skills to work individually and collectively towards solutions of current problems and prevention of future ones. So I think we definitely have the awareness and concern with a lot of people. They got that part, but we don't always think about including that solutions for current problems and prevention of new ones all the time as good as maybe we should. So some key things in that definition of EE are including attitudes and motivations, knowledge, commitment, and skills towards working toward those solutions of our environmental problems. And we want to develop a global population who has all of those things. We've got our work cut out for us, that's for sure. And so all of that together is environmental literacy. And so environmental education, it promotes environmental literacy. And we want out of that an environmentally literate society. But what does that even mean anyway? That's a lot of words. So an environmental literate person is really hard to say, is somebody who individually and together with others makes informed choices, decisions, is willing to act on those decisions, and participates in civic life. And all of those things sound great, but it can be hard to get there. And we also don't know exactly how to do all of those things and accomplish all of those things. So we kind of need a roadmap, some guidelines to get us there. And these guidelines were developed by a bunch of different professionals in environmental education and other folks in related fields. And they are developed with research in mind. There was a public participatory process. They want to engage educators in making sure there's quality environmental education practice, and also build EE as a profession. If we say that we as the Environmental Education Association of Indiana is kind of like the go-to place for quality environmental education, we also need to make sure that we're following some good guidelines ourselves, good practices to make sure that we're doing that. And one way of doing that is by learning more about these guidelines and also offering training in them for our members and other folks who might be interested. So the North American Association of Environmental Education has developed about 6 or 7 sets of guidelines. And here are the titles of those. And I'll explain the 6-ish here in just a second. So we've got some on EE materials. We have some on K through 12 for like classroom educators. We have other ones on environmental educator knowledge and skills, and that one was just recently updated this last year. We've got EE programs, early childhood EE programs, and community engagement. And then because of our current political climate, and with federal funding right now, NAAEE is not able to offer the climate action and justice. However, it is available if you have the correct information on how to access it. So keep that in mind. So I wanted to share a little bit about how to access those and a little bit about each of those. So you can download these for free by going to the NAAE.org website. You do not have to have an account or a login or anything. So they are available to download right now. You could download all of them, all 6 of them. The other one is available a different way. And you can access those for free. And they are pretty extensive. They have a lot of information in there. It's really overwhelming in a good way. So it helps to have somebody kind of give you a little bit of background and guidance information about them as you're trying to dissect them. So I want to give you just a tiny, tiny taste of that, and then give you a little teaser about an upcoming in-person workshop about these. So I'm going to go in the order of that list, that previous list, and explain just a little bit more about these. So one of these guidelines is about K through 12 learning. So like for classroom teachers in particular, for kindergarten through 12th grade. And these are giving some ideas of setting expectations for performance and achievement, specifically in grades 4, 8, and 12. And these have some case studies and different things to think about as you're doing environmental education, especially in the classroom for these grade levels and the other grade levels also. So here's an example of something that's included in these guidelines. All of these guidelines have these guidelines in practice so that you can get an idea of what other people are doing with these guidelines and some good examples. So here's just an example of something from the K through 12 guidelines. So a different project that's being done in Alaska. And so you can read these different case studies and get ideas of what other educators are using these for and what are good examples of K through 12 learning in environmental education. So that is one of them. Then we have one on environmental education materials. And so this is giving some recommendations and some guidelines, kind of like in Pirates of the Caribbean, where they say they're just guidelines. These are not things that you have to do. It's not prescriptive. It's just things to make sure you're thinking about as you're either developing lessons or, in this case, materials. Just things to think about to make sure you're doing really good education, good practice. So this education materials guideline is a set of recommendations for developing and selecting environmental education instructional materials. So gives you some ideas of things to think about while you're doing that. So here's an example of something that is in the guidelines. So all of them have these lists of different things to consider. And in the materials, they're talking about emphasis on skills building and thinking and processing. So then they give you some little indicators to read through and kind of give you ideas of things to consider and make sure that some of the materials you're either developing or looking at to see if it's good quality material, if it meets some of these indicators, just good things to think about. I haven't found any of them especially earth-shattering, some of the points, but it brings up things in a different way that you might not have thought about before. And definitely some of the points there giving you ideas on might be, well, like, yeah, everybody should be doing that. Yes, everybody should be doing, kind of like what they're recommending, but not everybody thinks about it or has training on these things. So it gives some good baseline things to make sure we're doing. One of our other ones is environmental educator knowledge and skills. And like I said, this was the most recently updated one. This is a set of recommendations for preparation and continuing education of environmental educators. And I have looked through this and used it to kind of revamp my syllabus for the course I teach at IU Bloomington, to make sure that I'm staying up to date on things and make sure I'm giving relevant and quality training to my students. So here's one of the things from that guidelines PDF that's available online. So making sure that you're giving credible environmental education information, and looking at and knowing about misinformation and disinformation. So making sure you're up to date on things like monarch butterflies and honeybees. There's a lot of things out there that may or may not be super accurate. At least some people might not be up to date on some of that information. So it's a good idea to try to stay up to date on things that we're trying to share and teach people about. Of course, sometimes it's hard to keep track of all of that. But this is some good things to think about. Like I said, guidelines. Our next one is environmental education programs. And so this gives recommendations for the design and implementation of non-formal or informal EE programs. So like folks with soil and water or recycling districts, parks and things like that. It gives some really good things to think about when you're developing programs in those kind of settings, and not the specific like classroom settings and things. So definitely take a look at that if you represent one of those professions. That's the non-formal, informal education. And this can be a favorite of many people: early childhood and environmental education programs. We have a number of people who are interested in early childhood, and I think that's a great place to focus on. This set of guidelines is a bunch of recommendations to use for development of a comprehensive early childhood program, or to make improvements to existing programs. So it's got some really good information for the little kids and the educators of those folks. And then community engagement. This is a really interesting one, especially for people working with doing different kinds of outreach and trying to work with your communities. Maybe especially if you're newer to the area and you don't really know as much about the communities, populations who live in that area. And it's a great way of making sure that you're being inclusive and trying to reach everybody who's living in that area and creating some effective partnerships and collaborations. And it's got some really neat ideas in there. Good things to consider for sure. And then one that is not officially being offered right now is educating for climate action and justice. And hopefully this will be officially offered in the nearish future. So yeah, we need more of that. So a little bit about how these are being used. These are being used in different certification and accreditation programs. Like I said, with program development, professional learning, research evaluation, leadership development. These are all great ways of utilizing these guidelines. And if you're involved in these types of activities, definitely taking a look at these guidelines to make sure that you're kind of thinking through everything as much as you could. Definitely good stuff. We definitely want, as individuals and organizations, our different professional fields that we're in, we want to be professionally credible. And using these guidelines is a way of making sure that we're kind of, considering a lot of different things that should be considered when we're doing these types of programs and training and such. Here are a few kind of main things that are um, throughout each of these guidelines for excellence. So all of these key kind of points here are important things in all of these guidelines. So just kind of a smattering of different things. Sustainable future, we definitely need that. Importance of where one lives, place-based education. It's good to know about the Amazon rainforest and stuff, but we also need to know about what's in our backyard here in, central Indiana or wherever you might be calling in from. Uh, because it's important to know what we have in our own backyards. We've got some cool nature here too. We definitely want to try to be welcoming and responsive, inclusive to our audiences, but also each other. And those are kind of threads throughout each of those guidelines for excellence. Let's see here, keep going here. And we have some future training in person. This is kind of save the date. Registration is not available yet, but will be soon. EEAI was able to get a grant to train folks in guidelines for excellence. And we have a trainer coming in from the West Coast who's going to help lead an in person training Thursday, August 13th in Plainfield. That's just west of Indianapolis. We are still working out registration details. There may be a small fee, but it won't be expensive or anything like that. So watch for more information on the EEAI emails and EEAI social media. And if that's something you're interested in, save that date, hold that, especially the morning, and watch for more information. And then we also received another grant to offer some online asynchronous short environmental education courses. So watch for information in those same places for some information about this course coming this fall and more to be coming in the future. So we've got exciting things happening in EEAI. It is a great time to be a member and to be looking for training like this. Hopefully, this sounds exciting and interesting to you all. I know I am just ecstatic. I cannot wait. It's just great to be able to bring this to EEAI in Indiana. So again, to learn more about all those guidelines for excellence, go to the NAAEE.org website where you can download those guidelines for free. And then if you make a free account, an EE Pro account, you can access a lot of other information, including that EE Learn module that I mentioned about the Tbilisi Declaration and other kind of foundations in EE.